Hi, everyone. Welcome to lecture 1.5 or maybe lecture intermission. I'm just taking a couple minutes here really quick to get a few things sussed out. Lecture 1 I thought went pretty well for somebody who is trying out some new technology. I've obviously done a few things online before, but I'm also learning some new things here with the tech. I have a new camera set up and a new lighting set up and a new green screen set up, and so all that gets confusing. I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the big ideas in the syllabus in a way that's more directly about the syllabus, not about the big ideas themselves, meaning that lecture 1 I thought was pretty useful. We talked about a lot of big ideas around goals for the quarter in general, but we didn't talk about how the quarter is going to go or how the course is set up so much. I want to take a minute to do that really quickly. I'm keeping things as simple as I can over here on our homepage. I might even take this Panopto recordings off. I might be using the Panopto feature to put up some video quizzes. I'm not sure about that yet, but it's there for the time being. The Zoom link now has my office hours in it. I won't click through that because I don't want to have anyone Zoom bombing me, but it's there in case you need to use it. Hold on a second. I'm checking my levels. They look good.
They look good.
Yeah, they're looking like they're fine. So I have so much equipment in here that I don't know how to use. It's a little bit terrifying. All right. So the Zoom link is up if you want to visit Zoom office hours. That's now working, and I should be present, and I'll post a note if I have to duck out for any reason. And some of these actually might change around a little bit. We'll see how it goes, but most everything is here under modules, including the access to assignments. I don't believe in having multiple links to multiple things. A week at a time, but in 2 units, as I explained already, and we've talked about a lot of this stuff already. I will be recording and posting a lecture 2 that covers this assigned material for unit 2 very soon. But for right now, I want to talk about the syllabus, and because it's going to be a little bit small here, I'm going to make it bigger. And because my head's in the way, and I didn't really realize how much my head is in the way, because the screen I look at is not the screen that has my head in it, and I didn't realize how much my head was blocking when I was recording last time. Check this setting out. Yeah, I'm tiny in the corner, so I'm still in the picture, but I'm not in the way anymore. So there's a little bit of weirdness going on over here with the green screen fading a little bit, so it's got this rough line, but I think it's good enough. It's, you know, we're doing a college class here. We're not like YouTuber professionals or something. I hope everyone agrees it's good enough. It's going to be good enough for now. I'm not going to buy another light and illuminate my green screen even better. All right. Let me get into the important details here of the course syllabus. I don't want to read the whole syllabus to you, but I want to highlight a few parts just because it's nice to go through it together in a way. Obviously, reading the whole thing to you would be very boring, and you can read just fine. I introduced the class here a little bit. My office hours are posted here as well. You can email me directly, or you can use the Canvas tool to email me. Our outcomes are listed here. I went over these without naming them specifically. I described them extensively in lecture 1, but basically get smarter about understanding how statistics can be useful and how they can be misused, understand where data come from, and that the process of data collection is very often a social process, not just a statistical process, which people always pretend it is. Get better at data analysis and presentation, which you're going to start with assignment 1, which is due next week. I haven't introduced yet. Somebody's already turned one in. Okay, that's fine, but don't rush. I'll go over the assignment a little bit more before we get to assigning it. And then this part about calling bullshit, I linked to a class here at UW Seattle's campus that's gotten a lot of fame lately because they're forerunners in this. They've had the class out for quite a few years now, but it's getting a lot of attention because it's one of the first classes that's organized around calling bullshit on dubious statistical claims. They tend to be more about calling bullshit about bad statistical use in scientific publication, but they've gotten much better about just being broader focused, like this class is, about understanding statistical claims in the public sphere in general. So, class expectations I want to touch on really quickly, which is I expect you to participate. It's a big part of my class face to face, but it's an even bigger part of the class online. What that means is that there will be points for a lot of activities in class. I'm not teaching this class synchronized, so you don't have to be logging in at a particular time for most of the work in this class, but there's going to be stuff every week and oftentimes multiple times a week that you have to check in and do and follow along on, and there will be points for each one of those. Individually, those points won't be much, but collectively, cumulatively, they'll add up to a major portion of your grade, so do please participate. It's really important to be present in class, even if the class is online. Online, of course, it's easier to check out and not really be present, so I want to incentivize that, and I'll try and keep on you about making sure you're checking in, participating, getting those points, taking part in the class. Turn work in on time. It is possible to turn some work in a little bit late. Some work I have an absolute deadline on, depends on the work, but turning it in on time keeps you keeps you on track with the rest of class, so you don't get too far behind. And then keep up with the reading, because sooner or later you'll be asked to discuss something, and if you haven't done the reading, you won't be able to sound very intelligent about it or write very intelligently about it. And then this last little note here is one I want to really emphasize. So that stuff is probably pretty standard. You've heard that kind of thing from professors before. This last little note here I think is really important, considering that this class is in the middle of really massive economic and social upheaval that we're undergoing right now, because of all of the crisis management around COVID-19 pandemic. That is, try and be nice to each other. And it seems pretty obvious, but this class has some potentially controversial, potentially inflammatory subject matter. Sooner or later, you're going to find something that gets you a little bit hot around the collar, or rubs your fur the wrong way, whatever analogy you want to use, something that makes you a little bit peeved or mad or pissed off, whatever word you want to use for it. If you find that somebody in the class, and this includes me, by the way, if you find that somebody in the class is being a jerk, try and go out of your way to bend over backwards even to say, you know what, they seem like they're really being a jerk, but maybe they're having a hard day and they didn't mean it that way. I think it's really important to give everybody the benefit of the doubt when we can. It's really hard to communicate tone over email or in a discussion board written post. It's really easy to misinterpret somebody if you're not giving them the benefit of the doubt. And we are all in this class together. We sometimes have different views. We sometimes disagree. It's okay to disagree, but do try and be kind when you disagree with other people. So it's a lesson I try and take to heart. I don't always do it myself in every situation. So, but I really do try and bring that into my teaching in particular. As part of that, I want to just bring up right away that one of the things we discussed in lecture 1 was this idea that we are all biased individuals, and depending on where our biases are, we interpret data selectively to either confirm our biases or we discount the data that contradicts our biases or opposes our biases. And we're all human. That's a very natural human tendency to do that. But I want to make sure that we really put that idea in the front of our consciousness when we start this class. As a way of doing that, what I like to do when I start this class off is to acknowledge my own bias. And that is to say that politically I am a left of center individual, but I am quite centrist compared to many of my students. It's hard for me to find, as a matter of fact, very many students who think I'm reasonable because I'm either too far right for my far left students or I'm too far left for my farther right students. Uh, and it is almost a meme-worthy joke these days that there's nobody left in the middle. But I am left, but I'm left of center. I'm not far left, and I'm not saying that's the right place to be. Of course, I think it's the right place to be, just like you all think you're in the right place. But I want to acknowledge my bias right up front, because acknowledging your own bias, like I've just done for myself, is really important if we want to inoculate ourselves against the natural tendencies we have of, when we see data that confirms our biases, we tend to accept it uncritically. We don't look and see if that's true or not, or see if it's good data or not. And then when data comes at us, no matter how good the data is, if it's somehow undermining or contradicting our existing biases, then we tend to discount that data, right? And it's only by really being aware of our own biases when thinking about what data it takes to change our minds that we can even hope to address that. So keep that in mind when we're being kind to other people as well. We'll get to lots of places in the quarter where we'll run into some controversial issues sooner or later. Some issues may not be controversial to anybody, some might be controversial to everybody, but just keep that in mind when we're working through this together, that we can disagree and still learn a lot in this class. Grading's broken down as follows. About a quarter of the grade will be participation points, so little points here, little points there, 5 points, 10 points, kind of assignment based activities in class. There's homeworks coming up. There's 4 in the quarter, 25 points each, a total of 100 points. So around another 100 points total. Another 100 points, about a quarter of the class again, a little less than a quarter. 3 unit tests were 50 points each. Those will be take-home tests with a drop-dead deadline, but 5 to 7 days to work on before the deadline. The work will be open note, open book, no neighbor or friend, and no copying from the internet. But it'll be a relatively low pressure testing environment, if you will. And then a 100-point final project that I'll announce with about 4 weeks to go in the quarter, that'll be due during finals week. So all told, about 450 points possible. I make the caveat here that the total number of points may vary. Things might change a little bit, but this is the general guideline. Late assignments are accepted, but other work is not accepted late. So do try and manage your time as well as you can. If something's going on that's going to prevent you from participating in the class, please let me know as soon as you can. Don't drop out for a week or two and then email me after you've disappeared for a while and say, oh, hey, I was gone. Just let me know, please. That's really helpful. All right. The grading scale is here. Grading scale is pretty standard. Every quarter I have students get a 4.0. Every quarter I have students get a 0.0, unfortunately. What happens where students fail this class is almost always something's going on in someone's life that's really preventing them from completing the work. It's not because they're bad at math, or it's not because the concepts are too hard. That is a challenge for a lot of students, but it's a surmountable challenge. I want you all to know that I've taught this class plenty of times. It's possible for everyone to succeed in this class. The folks who don't thrive, though, it's usually there's something outside the class that's really affecting them. I'm bringing that up in particular this quarter because there's a lot affecting a lot of us. So please let me know if something's going on that's going to limit your ability to participate or make it really difficult for you in this class this quarter. I want to work with you. I want you to succeed, and I'll do what I can with my limited and stressed resources to help you as much as I can. We'll get through it together. So quickly, there's a course schedule here. I'm not going to read you the course schedule, but what I want to point out to you is that there's readings. The readings will go up under modules where there's a link, but there's this big, bold and partly all caps announcement, which is that the readings are not definite in later weeks. I might change some of them because I think that we have really a great opportunity right now. We have a great opportunity to use real live data science examples, data and discourse examples of data being used well, used poorly, used moderately well or not in the discourse around really big social issues like, should we extend the stay-at-home measures? Should we? How much economic impact is there? How many people are carrying the virus that we haven't counted yet? These kind of questions are all database questions about how we should act and how we should behave that are really important. So a good understanding of the data is super relevant to a lot of these questions, and there's lots of examples. I'm reserving the right to pull those examples in later in the quarter as we go. So just keep an eye on that, and I'll keep you informed. Right now, I have enough readings in there from previous quarters that if I find myself having a hard time catching up and keeping up, then we always have some readings to fall back on. But I'd like to bring in some material that's really super current and topical and relevant to us. We'll see. That is about it in terms of the schedule and the syllabus and the grading. There's a few more points here. Please don't cheat. In particular, online classes, I find it's a lot easier because a couple reasons. One is that the social distance between me and you is mediated by electronics, and so you don't think of me quite as much as a real person. Having this nice YouTube video of me is helpful, I know, but still I'm not as real a person as the one that you would meet in a face-to-face classroom. So for that reason, it might be a little bit easier to try and cheat in the class or be a little dishonest in the class. I'm not as a real person you're sending that internet source in on, right? So it's a little more anonymized, I guess is my point. Second of all, you're typing text into a field on a website, and that's really easy to just copy paste from. So it's one step lazier to being online to just copy paste your answers instead of doing it in a paper that you're going to hand in. Please be careful about making sure your work is your own. Please be careful about citing your sources if you use external sources. Of course, we'll be using a lot of sources from within the class. You should cite those as well. But make sure your work is your own and that everything is cited if you're using a source as part of your work. Depending on the assignment, you may or may not be using some sources as much as others. And I would much rather see, even if your English language skills aren't the greatest, if your formal writing ability isn't the strongest, I would much rather read your own attempt at explaining a concept instead of reading somebody else's beautifully written but stolen explanation of the same concept. So please make sure to do your work as to your best of your ability on that. And if you find that you're struggling and you can't, reach out to me for help, and I'm happy to help. And that solves all these problems. Counseling is really important, and especially important right now because a lot of people are going through a lot of stress. Really quick note: I didn't point this out earlier, but here under week 1, unit 1, there's this hello assignment, which is a discussion board assignment where you just introduce yourselves. And I won't click on it. I don't want to show everybody all the posts there. It's an in-class thing, obviously. But most of you have done it already, which is great. It's due on Monday, so if you haven't done it yet, please post the little biography, little introduction on the hello discussion board. That's one of our first things for participation in this class. And then the reason I brought that up was because some of you have talked about how this quarter is already stressful for you. One of the things I can recommend is counseling, and I know that it might not work for everybody, but it certainly works for some people. Personally, I had a tough time in my PhD program. I felt like my head was about to explode. I had way too much to deal with. I couldn't possibly keep all the balls in the air. I felt like a miserable failure. I was a little depressed about it all. And I was on the verge of a breakdown, and I ended up saying, you know what, maybe I should go talk to somebody about it. And this was tough for me because I'd always been sort of this like, hey, I can get through this. I can just try harder. I can just work harder. I'll be okay. And I went to see the UW counseling centers. I got paired up with a counselor. I got a once weekly appointment with the counselor. I think they'll be a little stretched thin right now, like everybody, but I think they do have telehealth counseling where you can talk on video with somebody. It was really helpful for me to talk to somebody about what was going on in my life as it related to my schoolwork, but just what was going on in my life in general in a way that helped me do better in school. So I do recommend the counseling center. I don't think you should feel ashamed about giving it a try. I don't think you should feel like your problems are too small for the counseling center. I think if you're having a tough time, you should give it a shot and click on that link or go online and find them at the UW-Tacoma website and schedule an appointment and talk to somebody. It can really help. So I encourage you to do that. Last but not least, if you have a disability that qualifies you for accommodations in this class, please work with the Office of Disability Support Services. I am happy to accommodate your needs as reasonably as I can. There can be some limitations on what we can do, but I really do my best to accommodate your needs. So please work through that office. And the way this system works, of course, is that you go to them, they come to me, and I work with them to accommodate your needs. So you don't have to be the one requesting every accommodation. It's a great system. The people at that office are very supportive and helpful, and I enjoy working with them. So do take advantage of that resource if it's something that can benefit you. That is all of the syllabus. That is all I had to say about that. The one thing I want to give a little shout out to, and you know what? I don't have it pulled up, do I? No, I don't. I'm going to pause and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So what I wanted to do was pull up this Instagram, and I did have this pulled up already, but I just wanted to do this where my face wasn't in front of every picture I was trying to show you, because that was embarrassing. Still learning this whole green screen thing. Just quickly, I value my family. I really care deeply about being out with my kids. Being outdoors I like a lot, so being outdoors with my kids is a natural part of that. There's my neighborhood. There's a soccer game. There's a dog. There's my kid. Being outdoors. UW-Tacoma. There's the aquarium. There's picking some plums last summer. And I like to travel. I'm a geographer. I mentioned that already. I just wanted to do this the right way without having my big face in front of all these pictures. More traveling pictures. There's Tanzania. That's the island of Unguja, which is commonly known as Zanzibar. Anyway, you're going to get lots of geographic examples throughout this quarter. And then I mentioned skiing. I like to ski. If we go far enough back in my Instagram collection here, we end up with somewhere. Boy, how far back do we go? There we go. There's this. Uh-oh. That's not an appropriate photo of your professor riding the ski lift with a half rack of kokanee. We're on the way back to the hotel. That was the way you get there, was by the ski lift. Don't worry. You should not drink and then go skiing. Not a good idea. All right. Anyway, I wanted to show some of these photos just to give you an idea about what I think is important. I like being outdoors. I like skiing. I like hanging out with my family. Here's an interesting bit. You might have seen that picture earlier of my son in his wheelchair. He doesn't spend that much time in the wheelchair anymore. He mostly uses a walker and crutches to get around. But this is what we do when we ski with him. He's an adaptive skier, a sit skier. And this is a little sit ski he's in. That's my wife. We went skiing with him. But I volunteer with an organization called Outdoors for All, which is a Seattle-based organization that lets people with disabilities, people experience various sorts of disabilities, enjoy the outdoors in a bunch of different ways. And I am an adaptive ski instructor with our organization. So I had the pleasure of having my son as my student last winter. I hadn't taught him as his instructor before because I thought it would be best if he learned from somebody else. But last year I gave it a shot. Last winter I gave it a shot. So anyway, that's my life in brief based on Instagram. Of course, my life ended about half a year ago when I stopped using Instagram. But there you go. It's all over. One more comment is, look, there's my first video. There it is. I got a comment, and I want to show that I reply to comments in the videos. So if you want to leave an insightful comment, I might reply to it in a future video. Robert Thompson from Sapporo in the island of Hokkaido, Japan, is a really big backcountry skier, adventure traveler, super interesting guy, and is one of my 70 something subscribers to my channel. It turns out, and he commented. He's a professor of psychology, I believe, at a school in Sapporo. He commented, when are you coming to Hokkaido again for some skiing? You need some Instagram shots. You were skiing up here in Japan. And I commented back, I was like, hey, be careful, buddy, because I'm on sabbatical in 2021 and I might come. So just to meet Robert's comment here about needing some Instagram comments of skiing in Japan, here is a video of me skiing, a helmet cam shot, a GoPro shot of me skiing powder in Hokkaido. Here we go. Ready? Yeah. 15 seconds of powdery bliss. That's my lovely wife skiing down behind me. All right, so I think we've hit the high notes. I think we covered it all pretty well. I'm gonna practice my presentation skills so I can go back to the big head. That's a good spot to end it. My whole point of this was to talk about the syllabus a little, class structure a little bit, and then do a little bit of more about me without having my big fat head in the middle of the screen so you couldn't see anything behind me. That's all for now. I'm going to prep and record a lecture number 2 for week 1, part 2. And I realize it's already the end of week number 1, so I'm already a little behind. I hope you'll forgive that tardiness on my part. And, it's the quality content you're coming here for that makes it worth waiting, right? I hope so. All right. I will talk to you all soon. I'm going to make sure I get the button. There it is. All right. Bye-bye now.